those kind of things. You can do that, but the penalty is you have to start from the pit lane. And that's a smart move from Nakajima and Button. They were right at the back of the grid anyway, and here they will have an optimum car for the race, and it's a long, long way to go. 53 laps of this circuit.
For a driver, it's like somebody's just switched all of the lights on. All of those people, mechanics, equipment, media, everybody suddenly clears away, and for the first time today you can see your competitors. Other than that, you just put into a garage full of people on the grid, and we've got a Toro Rosso on the grid that's going nowhere. He'll be starting, unless he can get away now before the last car passes him, he'll be starting from the back of the grid.
Well, we saw him in tears at the end of the Grand Prix in Belgium, having lost a podium place. I imagine the tears will not be far away. The frustration for Sebastian Bourdais must be colossal. He's driving for his seat for next year. He's given himself a great chance by qualifying fourth, and he is stalled. We don't know if it's his fault or the car's fault on the grid. And the team desperately trying to get him. They have to push him off the grid, and he'll have to start from the pit lane.
Well, of course, the race has started, James, as you say. You know, it's not like a normal formation lap.
Absolutely, he'll have to get off the grid as quick as possible.
Yeah, and so he'll be, if they don't get it running, he'll be a lap behind already. It's these guys are now in the Grand Prix effectively. And the safety car will pull off at the end of the lap. They'll then hang back, and that's what I was saying on the grid. They'll then charge down to turn one at full speed from Parabolica. Then we'll see who's got any grip.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Yesterday in the GP2 race, they gave it a couple of laps behind the safety car before they released it. We'll see. Everybody needs to get a feel for the grip. Of course, they are travelling much more slowly than they would be at racing speed. So how much information can they pick up at this sort of speed? Not much, I guess.
No, the car feels dreadful at those speeds. It has no downforce at all, no tyre temperature. What you can do is keep pumping the brake pedal until you've got some downforce working over about 70 miles an hour. You're not really putting the tyre under load. No sign. So that car's stuck in first gear. They've got to start it up in gear. Then, because it's lost its hydraulic pressure, then he hits neutral, then he pulls for first. And presumably, this is quite an unusual situation actually, with a safety car start and a car stalling on the grid. I think if he gets away, they should release him. They should put him out. Mind you, he's behind the medical car then. That's a very tough call.
Yeah, well, obviously, if the snake behind the safety car is anywhere near, he'll have to wait. The pit lane red light will be on. Either way, it's a bad break for Sebastian Bourdais, and here is the safety car coming through the Parabolica at the end of the first lap. So Raikkonen down in 14th place. He has an important job to do today. We had battle royal between him and Hamilton at Spa last weekend. Thoroughly entertaining scrap, a fierce contest, which ended obviously in controversial circumstances as far as Hamilton was concerned. Look at the spray, and they go across the line for the first time, so it's at least one lap, at least 2 laps behind the safety car we are faced with before they release them. And I'm very interested to see what Raikkonen can do today. Of course, he signed a new contract with Ferrari this week. It was announced on Friday, and if you look at Ferrari's, the way they handled it last year, they announced that Massa had extended his contract just before they asked him to go out in the Brazilian Grand Prix at the end of last year and help Raikkonen win the World Championship. And I wonder whether they're doing the same thing here. The SOP is a new year to a new extra year on his contract, but the price he has to pay is that for the rest of this championship, he will be the rear gunner for Felipe Massa.
They're still trying to get it to go. That's the clutch release there for the Marshalls, which obviously is a one-hit wonder. So the Marshalls can push the car away should it spin. But as you can see at the top of your screen, Bourdais is already a lap behind. I think they should fire him up and let him go, I would have thought. I don't really know at which point they have to wait until in exactly these circumstances. When the blankets came off those tyres, the wets are heated to about 80 degrees. They have let him go. 80 degrees centigrade. And the slicks, the dry tyres, are heated to 100 degrees centigrade. But of course, as they're now trundling around, that's just falling away. The teams know the pressure and temperature of the tyres from the data they have. I tell you what, if he catches the back of the pack, he'll have such a run on them because he'll have brake and tyre temperature.
There's Bernd Mailander on the right, the driver of the safety car, experienced touring car driver, and in contact with race control, race director Charlie Whiting, who has they've obviously decided it's safe to release these 20 Formula One cars. Bourdais is at the back of the chain. The lights are off on the safety car. Vettel now will have to pick his moment to hit the accelerator and get this Italian Grand Prix underway. The youngest ever Formula One pole sitter with a tremendous responsibility. Kovalainen is itching to get on with this race. He can see a second race victory in his horizons.
You cannot pass until you've gone over the finish line. It's a long way down the pit straight. They must remember that. You can't even overlap until you've gone over that line.
Vettel hits it, and away we go. We're racing at Monza. Sebastian Vettel leads a Grand Prix for the first time. We've got cars side by side. They're not allowed to pass. No one has passed. It's Vettel, Kovalainen, Webber, Rosberg, Massa, Trulli, Alonso, Glock, the first eight across the line.
Oh, they're all slowing down, okay. Super cautious, and rightly so. Treacherous conditions. And they were right to start that under the safety car, no doubt about it at all.
Hamilton's lost ground, look, behind Raikkonen, very ginger on the brakes, and into and out of the first chicane. Hamilton seems to be struggling at this early stage.
Well, Raikkonen started, of course, ahead of Hamilton on the grid, so that makes sense. They're up a place because Bourdais is not in front of them, so I don't think there was any overtaking done too early.
No, I didn't see any names changing as they came across the line, so a fair start from all appearances. There is Lewis Hamilton, trying to catch up onto the tail of Kimi Raikkonen. Vettel leads and is pulling away at the moment. We're riding on board, I believe, with Raikkonen. I think that's David Coulthard up front, but it's very, very hard to tell.
You've got to push the throttle to move and get on with it, but you do it so gingerly, so nervously. You tend to tighten up on the wheel as you're waiting for the inevitable back end of the car to step out. It was absolutely right to start it behind the safety car. The spray is horrendous.
Timo Glock has passed Fernando Alonso. Just saw them going through the Ascari chicane there. Timo Glock up into 7th place in the Toyota, ahead of the Renault of Fernando Alonso. The first significant move then of a car coming through. And one of the phenomena you get on a day like this, Martin, is field spread, isn't it? In this tremendous amount of spray, the cars all spread out much more than they normally would in a dry race, and just look at the visibility. Terrible. That's the place to be, out front.
Yeah, that McLaren we were on board with was braking due to the spray, not due to being near the braking zone. We're getting it slowed down. There's a lot more grip on the inside down into turn 1 as Kovalainen goes across the concrete. I don't think there'll be any problems there. Going two Toyotas versus Fernando Alonso. Alonso has passed Glock effectively in that.
Yeah, he's back ahead of Timo Glock. Great scrap going on there, and it's continuing through the Curva Grande. Glock comes down the inside, around about 180 miles an hour in the driving rain towards the Roger chicane, the second chicane on this lap. And Alonso defends his position. Glock has to go a little bit wide. He will slot in behind Alonso again. We'll see quite a lot of that today, and after what we learned in Spa last weekend, we now know that if you pass a car by cutting the chicane, you have to wait until at least the next corner, after the next corner, before you make a move.
So Vettel's lead, then they're on lap 4 now. Second racing lap, he was 2 seconds clear of Kovalainen. There was a further 2.3 in front of Webber. Rosberg 4th, Massa 5th.
And Vettel isn't just leading this Grand Prix, he is driving away from Heikki Kovalainen. The first 2 sectors of this lap, he is already 1.4 seconds quicker than the McLaren driver. Now, part of that will be fuel load. We believe he's a little bit lighter, but nevertheless, Vettel is on fire here. Here's Coulthard making a move.
Coulthard on Fisichella, presumably. And that is for 11th place in the Grand Prix. And they'll all be one stopping there. You can assume, I think, that Hamilton and Raikkonen is too. And that is Hamilton going past Raikkonen, isn't it? And then he'll have to let him back through again.
Here we go.
He'll have to let him blend back in, and does so.
Yeah, he's well aware of the steward's attitude to chicane cutting, is Lewis Hamilton. But what about Vettel? A 1:35.534 on that last lap compared to Kovalainen, 1:37.241. 1.7 seconds quicker. Tremendous performance by Vettel. He leads Kovalainen. Webber is 3rd for Red Bull. 4th is Rosberg. 5th is Felipe Massa. 6th is Jarno Trulli. 7th is Fernando Alonso. 8th is Timo Glock. 9th is Kubica. 10th Heidfeld. 11th Fisichella. 12th Raikkonen. And 13th Lewis Hamilton. Lap 7 of the Italian Grand Prix. It's been raining all weekend here in Milan. Not at all what we normally expect this early autumn, this time of year. This appointment is normally held in beautiful golden light. Instead, it's been dark and almost biblical levels of rain. The situation at the moment, Sebastian Vettel leads in the Toro Rosso. He was in pole position. This is Timo Glock a moment ago, just losing it and almost hitting Fernando Alonso. Good scrap for 7th and 8th places between those two. And this is the battle between Fisichella, Raikkonen and Hamilton for 11th, 12th and 13th. At the front, though, it's Vettel by almost 6 seconds now, Martin, from Heikki Kovalainen. And
driving beautifully. I can't explain this. Think of Hamilton in Fuji last year. Think of Hamilton in Silverstone this year. Absolutely in a league of his own, in wet conditions, tricky conditions. He's barely hanging on to the back of Raikkonen, who can't make any impression. That's the leader, isn't it? Coming through there, but he's not making any impression on Raikkonen. He's doing 1 minute 37s when his teammate's doing 1 minute 35s, Kovalainen up front. Hamilton just doesn't seem to have a feel or a setup or the right grip or the confidence. I don't know what it is, but he's just nowhere at the moment. Another 1 minute 37 he's done. He's 2 seconds off the leading pace. Carry on like that and he's going to get lapped, let alone coming through for points.
Certainly is. There he is, driving very hard, Sebastian Vettel on his own at the front. And let's get some news from the pit lane and Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, and they're certainly discussing a lot down here at McLaren, Lewis's engineers, between themselves and also the guys who look after the hydraulic system and the brake system. So I'm wondering if it is actually another brake problem for Lewis. And starting behind the safety car, Martin, won't have helped him get heat into those brakes at all. Interestingly, in Parc Ferme, they just ground down the brakes to get rid of the glazing. They didn't change the brakes on Lewis's car, whereas they did on both Ferraris. So I think Lewis might be suffering from brake problems again.
He's going up the inside of Raikkonen, is he? Not quite. Into the Lesmos. This battle has certainly ignited now. Fisichella, Raikkonen, Hamilton. This is the scrap for 11th, 12th and 13th places. And Fisichella is lapping in the high 137s, 2 seconds a lap slower than race leader Sebastian Vettel or Heikki Kovalainen in the other McLaren.
Well, quite a darker line beginning to appear. The tram lines from where they're constantly running and lifting the water off the racetrack, look. And it's those sort of conditions that start to burn out these critical extreme wet tyres, of which they've only had 3 sets for the entire weekend. And there then is Fisichella. I think that gains as bigger advantage as not losing a place is as important as gaining one, really. But anyway, Fisichella really valiantly holding off Raikkonen, and Hamilton just about struggling to be with them.
The track would appear to be drying out as Raikkonen lines up Fisichella this time into the first chicane. Around about 200 miles an hour in the dry. He gets on the brakes and slides through. Raikkonen has gained a place. Hamilton now will have to do the same thing. Fisichella down into 12th place. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel has just done a new fastest lap of 1:34.972. And so those dark lines, you say, would appear to suggest that in places the track is drying out a little bit, but you can see for yourself that in other places it's still very, very wet.
Vettel needs that kind of pace. We're pretty sure he's going to be two-stopping compared to some one-stoppers out there, such as Raikkonen and Hamilton, I would have thought. I don't know how much fuel Fisichella's got on board, but he's doing a sterling job anyway for Force India. Parked himself still between Raikkonen and Hamilton. Hamilton needs to get on with that now. He's going to shadow Raikkonen and make any impression on this pad. They're 3 seconds behind the next runner. In 10th place, Nick Heidfeld in the BMW, who's lost out to Glock and teammate Kubica now.
Let's, as we take a look at the replay of Raikkonen going past Fisichella, let's get a Massa update. Of course, Lewis Hamilton's great title rival. He is running in 5th place at the moment, and he's just 0.6 of a second behind the Williams of Nico Rosberg, who's running 4th. And have a look at this. This is Hamilton and Fisichella.
Yeah, down to Parabolica, I think. And Fisichella getting a bit naughty there, really, moving across the track. Hamilton should get better purchase from the inside. He's gone to the outside for the slipstream. He's got to go right, and then he's got the grippier line under braking. That should be job done for Lewis Hamilton. He's got the better braking zone now, but Fisichella not ready to let it go.
And already, just in that one lap that Raikkonen had got past Fisichella, he pulled out 1.7 seconds over Hamilton. So Raikkonen now in clear air is pushing on. That is Zanarini, the manager of Giancarlo Fisichella, with Balbir Singh on his left, who used to be Michael Schumacher's physio and trainer and is now working for Giancarlo Fisichella. Meanwhile, Vettel at the front, now 6.5 seconds clear of Heikki Kovalainen. Mark Webber is still third, Rosberg fourth, and Massa